Hello and welcome to today's video. So in the video today, I'm not going to talk about the usual creativity or tips and things related to modular synth, but I'm actually want to talk about the news recently over the last week or so that two massive music retailers here in the UK are closing. One of those is GAC, which I think is Guitar Amp Keyboard, UK-based company. They've been around for a long time. And the other is Bax Music, which I think are based in the Netherlands, although they have stores throughout Europe. So these are two huge music industry retailers, catering to a wide range of people, from guitarists, drummers, keyboard players, synth players, electronic musicians, DJs, studios, probably educational institutions as well. I know that I think we use some of these people for suppliers to college where I work. So they're quite a large and significant retailer. So that's what I want to talk about today. But before we do that, I would just like to say thank you for tuning in today. And of course, if you are somebody who watches these videos regularly and you are not subscribed, then please do consider hitting that subscribe button, because it does help me and it helps the channel. And if you are new here, then thank you very much for clicking on this video. I hope you enjoy it, and also you might want to consider subscribing so you can watch more of this content. Okay, so let's get into it. So this news has come out, I don't know, was it last week maybe? And I've seen a couple of other YouTubers that have been talking about this. So the news has come out that I think GAC has gone into administration, or they filed for administration, and Bax, they're looking to, I did see something about possibly rebranding under a new name or something, but at any rate the stores are closing. So I say these are two huge music retailers, and this is going to be a big blow because there's going to be a significant number of jobs that are lost. I think Bax probably employs people numbered in the hundreds. There'll be a lot of turnover that is removed from the sort of music industry related economy, and we might think of these places as being guitar stores, but actually does this indicate a wider shift in sort of music culture and industry infrastructure? So I'd be interested to see what your comments are and thoughts on this at the end of the video. Obviously, as ever, drop a comment in if you have something to contribute to this. So as modular synth artists or electronic musicians, we might sort of think that the closure of these stores is not necessarily relevant to us, because they probably they don't necessarily cater to us. Having said that, I have bought gear from both these places. I bought a lot of studio equipment from Bax. In fact, I might even have bought the Behringer 2600. I might even have bought that from Bax. As well as just a lot of general kind of studio gear. They are a retailer that I've used quite a bit, and the same with GAC. Although probably more sort of guitar stuff that I've bought from there. I know I've definitely bought effects pedals and things from there in the past. It's a long time since I've actually set foot in a music store. But if I think back to my teen years, when I was first starting out as a musician and learning to play the guitar, and I was still in high school, there was quite a large music shop near to me in Birmingham, called Musical Exchanges. A huge shop, and we would go there in the school holidays me and some friends, we would get a train into Birmingham and we'd spend the day in that shop as if it was like, I don't know, some kind of theme park or something that you'd go to for the day. And we'd just spend the day just playing guitars and looking at guitars and chatting to other people in the shop. And yeah, it'd be like a day out for us to go to that shop. And, you know, probably, I don't know, a lot of dreams and hopes were probably founded and built on from those little excursions. And it was an important part of our experience as, you know, new musicians, as kids, to sort of take part in that. You know, in those days there was no internet, so you wouldn't be able to sort of watch video reviews or listen to what things sounded like. If you wanted to know what something sounded like, you had to go to a shop. You know, and I can remember even when buying new guitars, I would go to the shop and spend hours and hours in that shop trying out the guitars and playing them, and you know, the staff would always be really helpful and accommodating, and you know, let you spend as much time as you wanted playing a guitar, because I suppose, you know, if you're going to spend that much money on a new instrument, then you want to know that it's the right thing. But we kind of don't really have that these days. You know, and I'm as guilty as anyone. A lot of stuff that I buy now, I buy it used and I buy it from eBay. So I think in general, you know, our sort of music equipment buying experience has changed quite significantly over the years, and it is, you know, it is kind of interesting that so many stores do actually manage to still kind of survive brick and mortar stores. Now, these two stores in particular, as I say, they're probably not, you know, they're not necessarily focused on modular synth gear, although I'm sure that they probably do sell a small selection of, you know, the most common sort of modules and cases and so on. But I still think it's kind of, it's a sad thing that they're closing, and you know, potentially it does speak to a wider issue within the you know, music retail sector. And you know, it's got to be that the fewer retailers that are out there, the fewer opportunities there are for you know, for musicians to sort of engage, or new musicians to engage in buying gear and getting into this thing, whatever it may be. You know, and I think a lot of us probably have come from you know, come over to modular synth from other things, whether it's playing guitar or keyboard or, you know, DJing, whatever it might be. We were probably something else before we were into modular synth, and if we hadn't been that thing, would we have ever got into modular synth? I don't think I would have ever got into modular synth if I wasn't already a guitar player and I wasn't already a musician. And, you know, the sort of disappearance of some of these places, that, you know, if I think back to my youth, they were kind of like foundational and important in, you know, me becoming a guitar player. So is it sort of robbing people of that experience and that opportunity? But is it even important with, you know, everything that we have nowadays with YouTube and videos and online methods? Does it matter? I don't know. What do you think? And let's say, obviously, these are huge stores that cater to a lot of different types of people. As modular synth artists, we're probably, you know, we're probably looking to buy our gear from smaller, more niche stores. So here in the UK, the two biggest names that come to mind are Signal Sounds in Glasgow and Elevator Sound in Bristol. Both stores that I've bought modules from in the past. I've also bought modules from Pusherman. You know, if you sort of look closely, you probably notice some of the Pusherman blank panels in my case. And yeah, I kind of feel that maybe these stores are probably thriving more so than the big stores, because there's not so many of them and they are quite niche. But people who are into modular synth, you know, you're going to want to buy your stuff from somewhere, and there's not that many places to go to. So does that mean that these kind of like smaller, sort of more niche focused stores are more likely to survive in the future? I hope so, because where would we be without them? And both those stores that I just mentioned, Signal Sounds and Elevator Sound, they both go a long way to sort of developing the modular community, not just within their own local area, but within the country. I would say probably with events and things that they're involved in and so on. So I think they are quite important. They are quite important stores. And this phenomenon of sort of these small niche stores, which potentially are more successful than the bigger stores, does that sort of does that tie in with what we might see as kind of like the rise of the niche? Everything these days is about the niche, isn't it? It's whether that's on YouTube or whether it's sort of like the music that you're making. I feel that there's more interest in sort of niche areas of music than there is in, sort of, I don't know, the mainstream music that exists out there, which predominantly is probably listened to by, younger people and kids, and I guess that's kind of how it's always been. But there seems very little music in the mainstream that's of interest to sort of slightly older people or people who are musicians or whatever, and with the advent of sort of YouTube and Patreon and the possibilities that there are online, these sort of like niche music genres are more able to thrive than possibly they would have done in the past, perhaps. And does that kind of tie in with these niche music shops like modular synth shops and so on that cater towards the needs of those type of musicians? Is there a link there? Maybe so. These kind of specialist stores, we could probably see them as sort of like being a little bit of a safe haven for sort of electronic or experimental musicians that wouldn't have existed maybe in the past. So maybe, is it just it's time for these large music retailers to sort of die off and smaller niche retailers to step forward into the space that they leave behind? Would that be a bad thing? I don't think it would be. Obviously it is terribly sad for the people involved in GAC and BACs who've lost their livelihoods and professions and so on. But if that makes way for more diverse and sort of niche, smaller stores to pop up, as I say, every cloud has a silver lining. But what does this say to music culture at large today? Are we seeing a decline in the sort of hands-on musical discovery that would have happened in the past? Does that matter? How often, if you're someone out there who buys modular gear, how often will you want to go to a shop and try out the modules before you buy them? Or are you happy to just watch some videos online and then find the cheapest place that you can buy them from and buy them and have them delivered? If you don't like them, you send them back, or sell them on. Does it mean that fewer people are actually getting into making music in general, and that's why these stores are closing? One of the videos that I watched on about these two stores closing, which was by Rob Chapman. So if you're in the UK and you play guitar, you probably know who Rob Chapman is, but otherwise you might not. So he is somebody who's worked in music retail for many years, and he has his own company. He has his own company making guitars. So he's very knowledgeable on this subject, I suppose, and many friends of his will work for GAC and BACs And he was saying how he's kind of seen a decline over the last few years with younger people picking up instruments and, you know, getting into making music. And that's something that, you know, I kind of talked about a little bit in a previous video about modular synth, whether, you know, there's actually young people that are into it or not. And I never really thought about it at the time, but is that something that we're seeing over the whole of the music industry, that young people are moving away from physical musical instruments in general, not just, you know, not interested in modular synth, but actually not interested in picking up the guitar or the drums or whatever, because, you know, they would rather be working in the box and using VSTs and plugins, or maybe just using samples. And, you know, I know that a lot of the students at college are into, I don't know, all kinds of different trap music that I don't really know what it is, but the majority of what they do is kind of like rapping over samples and beats that they get offline. And is that a shift in the way that young people are making music? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So what can, as consumers, or, you know, as modular synth people, electronic musicians, whatever you want to call us, what can we do, or what can we learn from this? I guess one of the things is, you know, is to support your local stores where possible. Having said that, I don't think there are any local stores near me. You know, the nearest modular synth stores probably are Bristol, for Elevator Sounds and Signal Sounds up in Glasgow, or London. You know, and I do try and, wherever possible, I will try and buy gear from those places. So yeah, a little bit of a shorter video today. Yeah, what I'd be interested in are, do you still go to music stores in person? Do you buy gear in real life, or do you buy stuff online? How important are these shops? How important are these kind of like physical spaces to your musical journey or your modular journey? And do we need to sort of try and protect these businesses? What do you think about you know, what do you think about this news of these two shops closing? You know, and of course it is, you know, it is terribly sad, and you know, you have to think, you know, for the people who've lost their jobs in this news, and, you know, whatever we may think about those stores and their business models, or the way that they operate, or whatever, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there that are going to be worried and you know, wondering what to do next, because they've lost their income and their livelihood, and that is terribly sad news. So, well, that's a real kind of a downer to end the video on. But hopefully you have found this interesting, and as I say, I'm really interested to know your thoughts on this in the comments. What does this mean for the future of music stores in general? And, you know, yeah. If you have found this video interesting, of course, please do hit the subscribe button and the like button and all that jazz, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you ever so much for watching, and cheerio.